Hello, Andy Smith again, and welcome to session 5, how to derive insights from research. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll get going. So quick agenda is going to recap what we did last week, go through goals for this session, go through a disciplined approach that leads to actionable and insightful insights, and that would be the majority of what we talk about. And then in a separate video, I'll take you through how we used insights in the research we went through to uncover a new product launch for Nature's Own. So quick recap from last week, you learned about different methods available from a consumer research standpoint. Methods like qualitative have been around for eons, and some that are very new, probably only been around about a decade or so, such as neuroscience and behavior economics, and you learn to design a research plan. So, but at the end of this session, hopefully, you have an understanding for the scientific approach to gaining and generating research. As we talked about in the week 4 class, why it's really important to use multiple sources, whether it's primary, secondary, qual, or quant, to really find better and really actionable insights, and then develop a template to express the insight. So good insights really start with one thing, and that's primarily the asking the right question. And you really have to know what exactly you're trying to uncover and where to start to get it right. To get there, background research helps. That puts it in context. It helps you understand who you need to talk to, what behavior is currently happening, and what behavior you may have to change. Once you understand and look at all the data you have out there, you start to develop a hypothesis. And then you go out and you test the hypothesis. That's where the research comes in. That's where the hypothesis and the question is kind of what your research is designed to answer. So now you have the foundation for what you're going to explore. Research come back, you draw conclusions, you analyze the data, you draw conclusions. And then as Karen will report out to you in the video, is how do you need to deliver that to your clients? So really the key is to really drill down, and to drill down correctly, you have to kind of have an understanding of what drives the question you're asking. So if I ask just, why are my sales soft? I may want to ask, well, are they soft everywhere? Is it one product versus another product? Is my advertising not working? My promotions? Is my competitor doing something? Was I really strong last year, which is why I'm weak this year? Think about what's happening with COVID, right? A lot of people this year are starting to lap COVID performance, which for some brands was really strong performance, other brands really poor. So you didn't understand what happened historically to really be able to answer this question. So again, look at it, go deep, and try to get as many different ways of affecting sales, in this case, as possible, and then start drilling down into which is the area you think you may need to explore. So, and then continuing with the TV example, what metrics? So a lot of things impact your TV. Was your ad actually good? We'll talk about in the future session why we do ad testing. I noticed someone in the comments for session 4 said they don't do ad testing. Well, one of the problems with that is, great, you don't do ad testing, you roll the dice, but if the ad isn't performing, was it the ad or is it something else? If I tested the ad, I can say, oh, it's not the ad. Maybe it was my media plan. Maybe it was something, the purpose or the message I'm trying to put into the ad. Maybe it was an awareness issue, don't know. But the more the answers you have up front, the more you can drill down and figure out, here's what I really need to answer. So, and also it's good to start with your end goal. So what is the business question that you're trying to figure out? It's amazing how many research plans don't take that into account. So if I know my brand needs to grow X number of dollars, I can't sit there and say, we've identified 10% of the population. If that 10% won't get me to my goal. So what is your end goal? And then from there, develop your hypothesis to get you to meet your objectives. So again, and we can't emphasize it enough, good insight comes from looking at the problem from multiple perspectives. And not on this list, and the one I'm really a big fan of is kind of observational, and take you back to two things I've shared with you before. One was the Reese kind of candy exchange for Halloween. And yes, they had a stat there, 90% of people like to trade their candy on Halloween. But the real insight there is from observation is we don't like everything we get on Halloween. And it's a much better experience for me when I can trade the things I don't like to someone who likes them, who will then give me something I like. So again, the insight was generated from an observational perspective to even know the question to ask, do you trade your candy or not? The other one I love that would never come from data is from an innovation perspective, the SUVs where you stick your foot out, your arms are filled with groceries, stick your foot out and door opens. Really, that's not asking people, that's more of a qualitative observing people struggling, getting their, hands full, getting the packages into the automobile. So multiple ways of coming up with actionable insights, but the best is as many data sources as I can. Now, once you have the actionable insight, what do? Well, you got to bring it to life. And, again, think about why good advertising works, right? Tells a story. No different with actionable insights. You want to sit there and tell the story, maybe even the journey of how you got it, the journey the consumer is going through, and then bring it through life through visuals. I kind of look at it from a presentation deck from two perspectives. If I'm just presenting to people, I want to have as few numbers and words on the chart as possible and more images. Again, we react to emotion, react to images. The images actually tell a story, right? Pictures worth 1,000 words. If I can tell it in pictures, people will retain it more. Unfortunately, a lot of times we're putting together a deck that you have to leave behind. Then you have to put numbers and words and all in there. But the less you can put in there, the more that retained. And kind of the 5 W's, one way of looking at it: the who, what, when, where, why. The other thing I've used in the past is the what, so what, now what. So what did I learn? So what? What does that mean? And then the now what do I do with it? Give them an action to respond to. Do this. Even if it's more research, explore that. But give them action to take from the research going forward. So, and from other option is when you look at the data, how many different ways can I look at it? We love looking at averages, but the averages may not be the story. The story may be demographics. Higher incomes is very different than lower income. And if I look across demographics, psychographics, geography, I may discover that there are certain groups that are big outliers, or the average is really not the average. It's just combining two groups that are radically different, and it comes up with the number. So take the insight and the data you have and cut it through as many lenses and as many eyes as you can. And then sometimes, just a simple story is the best story. So look at your data through a time perspective if possible. Now, the one caution here is I've seen it happen multiple times is be careful what you choose as your base date or period. I've been in presentations where people have sat there and said, we have a big problem. Sales are really down. And their anchoring point was like the highest sales rate ever. Well, if you set that back another 10 years, you'd see, hey, we're not doing that bad this period. Great example of this, again, I mentioned COVID, but if I'm looking at a lot of brand sales right now, well, they may be up or down, a lot just based on how you performed versus COVID. So you may want to sit there and look back another 10 years to see how you're trending. And again, those trend lines are a great way of spotting patterns. So don't rule out simple ways of looking at the data. Also, sometimes those are the best ways. So, and then you're looking at all this data, what do? Well, you sit there and you make hypotheses, and this is where the research comes in. I have a bunch of hypotheses I think, are worth exploring. Well, now I'm going to go sit there and develop my research plan based on proving my hypothesis to be true or not. So again, back to the TV example, I've narrowed it down to maybe it's a copy issue. Well, maybe I just need better copy. So again, how do I sit there and develop a research plan that's ruling either in or out various hypotheses I have? So, and then you know what? You may not get it the right time. Be prepared to experiment. The more kind of A/B testing or different elements I can test in one research plan, the better, because it's always good to have a plan B in case plan A doesn't work. So anyway, if you have questions, please ask them during Monday's session, and I'll be posting a video shortly on examples of how we use this on Nature's Own to come up with a line extension. Thank you.